Okay, the teleprompter just says to start with a joke about that breakdancer at the Olympics. I guess that's why they call it breakdancing, folks, because she broke dancing. Thank you.
Thank you. Still not as lame as her dancing.
Geelong live show tonight, Ballarat and Bendigo this week.
You know what is lamer though? This trend of masses of people not recognising what's plainly obvious for ages, and then out of nowhere, almost like a sudden onset mass psychogenic illness, everyone feigning shock, or genuinely actually being shocked as they all at once realise the plainly obvious thing. Raygun finally made the world realise that breakdancing sucks ass. How did we get through 6 step-up movies and not figure that shit out? Breakdancing is a far lamer hobby than even the unimaginative stereotypes of lame hobbies like Yu-Gi-Oh, Warhammer, slacklining. Actually, wait, slacklining is in a category of its own. I mean, look at this shit. At least make it high enough so that if you fall, you become an athlete at the Paralympics. We need to nip this in the bud before slacklining makes it to the next Olympics like breakdancing did. Because I want Warhammer at the Brisbane Olympics. That's not lame. Think of the boon it would be for local games workshop / good games economy. Obviously, it'd do better if it was in Hobart or Albury. Why are there so many Warhammer stores in those towns? Probably because they're fond of all the types of crack. Anyway, back to my observations about people not recognising the obvious. You see the same thing again with this Mr. Beast controversy. You're shocked that the guy that makes solitary confinement videos that everyone watches and was fine with makes solitary confinement videos. I swear to God, these people could watch snuff films for years on end, and then all of a sudden, one day, out of the blue, I'm starting to think there's something a little unethical about Mr. Disembowel's business practices. I mean, do the people he kills for entertainment even want to be there?
They're not Woody Allen, they're YouTube.
They do that, you cunt! I've seen it! As Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Unless they're an Algerian boxer at the Olympics. Then you just believe whoever you want. Just feel like there should be an intro in 2 places in this video. Also, I changed my mind. Raygun rocks and breakdancing's cool. So there really was no need for the first intro at all. But notice how I didn't show you what I really think before this. That's because this is actually a video suggested by my patrons, and I was warming you up with some much needed commentary on under-discussed topics. My patrons think it's more important to talk about Labor policy and it being good, but don't worry. Not everyone is annoying as my patrons. Some are true blue patriots who aren't Patreons, who aren't so sold on this Airbus elbow joker, such as Sky News fan at Leslie Osborne 9319, who commented on a Paul Murray monologue entitled Labor to feel voter pain at ballot booth over cost of living crisis and tax return debacle. Leslie, in her wisdom, replied, "Maybe, Paul, I discovered today my 12-year-old is being taught a new Indigenous song for the school. They are shoving this at our kids and we voted no, but they're forcing it whether we want it or not. It's insidious and I'm so angry about it. It must be stopped." Thanks for keeping it on topic, Leslie. "I thought that voting no meant there'd be no voice, but now Labor's stealing my child's voice. Insidious!" Well, at Leslie Osborne 9319, you will be happy to know that as far as I'm aware, there's nothing in federal Labor policy about teaching new Indigenous song. Still don't know what that has to do with the title of that video, but then again, the title doesn't seem to have anything to do with the video. It's mostly just Paul Murray whinging about Labor halving the amount of free telehealth mental health therapy sessions. Well, tick to Labor, based on Christopher Lash pilled, slowly but surely dismantling the therapeutic culture that's cannibalizing the West. Is that Christopher Lash reference too obscure? Fucking shouldn't be. Anyway, it brings me to this video's sponsor, BetterHelp. Like many people, I struggle living in a world that isn't accepting of jokes that trivialize mental health disorders and therapy. I really want to make those jokes, and I used to get really sad and dark every time I realized that I couldn't without risking backlash from annoying mentally ill people and neurotic type A overachievers that insist on pathologizing every social interaction. But thankfully, BetterHelp has empowered me to overcome that fear with strategies. Now, thanks to BetterHelp, I'm able to publicly say anxious people are buzzkills without anxiety. Use the code word ADHD isn't real for 10% off your first 5 sessions and start your healing journey today. Fuck, sorry, halfway through the video and no substance. This is what it must be like to be a Sky News host all the time, as Paul Murray's whining, whilst funny, isn't fair. Labor's latest budget is putting hundreds of millions of dollars into mental health care. They're creating a digital mental health platform that aims to provide free therapy to 150,000 Australians. So basically, it's going to be a non-scam BetterHelp, which is fucking terrible news for us YouTubers. The only thing that would be worse is if they announce that they're nationalising Raid Shadow Legends. Let's keep going through Sky News comments to see what else they're complaining about. Okay, this one rocks. On this video about the old classic, Albo spending too much, titled, Stop What They Are Doing. Labor questioned over economy mismanagement. Jesus, the titles are as illiterate as the comments, but still, not as illiterate as Albo! As at Odin Dog of Raw 2024 points out, if you do your research, anyone that says if you do your research has always done their research, you would know he has a learning disability and did his entire life. Yeah, this is a real comment. Every single member of his staff are required to have a Cert 4 in disability support work, and that's not a joke. Do your research. It amazes me people think someone with a lisp, this is why he thinks he's disabled, and difficulty using big words was capable of handling Australia's economy. Damn, check out the Dunning-Kruger effect on this guy. That's how smart I am. Albo's are sped in comparison to me. It does segue perfectly into how our apparently disabled Prime Minister is actually saving Australians hundreds of millions of dollars thanks to our non-disabled, non-Prime Minister Bill Shorten's reforms to the National Disability Insurance Scheme. Under the neglect of the Liberals, that scheme just became this massive pot of money in which organised crime groups would go in. I'm supplying disability accommodation. Hey, isn't this just a tent in a parking lot? How is this supposed to help me with my difficulty using big words? Oh, just shut the fuck up and give me your tard money. Again, I'm not surprised, but I am, by how much media attention the CFMEU got because of its mob links, when the Liberals turned the NDIS into an organised crime pension. This was one of the first things Bill Shorten did as minister, crack down on that. He's now trying to pass the admittedly Orwellian entitled Getting the NDIS Back on Track bill, a bill that has attempted to rein in the ever-expanding costs of the NDIS, and despite the name, the bill's really good. Well, at least according to disability policy experts Sam Bennett and Hannah Obam from the Grattan Institute, because, if passed, it'll introduce a standardised needs assessment, replacing the hodgepodge system we now have that lacks any set rules for individual funding and basically makes it impossible to budget this thing. The bill will also clarify 2 separate sets of funding to make it cheaper and easier to provide off-the-shelf funding for those with less intensive needs, like our current Prime Minister, apparently. Seriously though, isn't it amazing that someone seriously believes that, guys, I think there's been a massive error in our democratic system here. We've accidentally elected a mentally handicapped man and not noticed, despite the fact he's been in Parliament for 3 decades. So anyway, hope that NDIS bill passes. More good policy from Labor, and oh, look at that, we're out of time. Looks like no one's going to be happy with this video. Not the fools that clicked on this video thinking it was going to be about breakdancing, and not the patrons who wanted a video about Labor policy. Got like 3 dot points in, which should teach everyone at home a valuable lesson. Politics is about compromise. But don't fret. Really, this was just a beta test for a new segment that we're tinkering around with. Thinking about introducing it, where we respond to all the people who think they're way smarter and better than Albo at his job despite having no experience in government, or indeed seeming to understand what government in fact is most of the time. So, if you, like these Sky News commenters, have seen through the Matrix and think, yep, I know how to run the joint, despite not knowing what the joint is, write down your comments below and we'll cherry pick the stupidest ones while making fun of you. But actually address them at the same time. Does that sound like fun for the people that write, deleting my comments again, are you? Pathetic, even though that comment is there. Anyway, like and subscribe.